Music, Sam.
When there's something strange on the internet, who you gonna watch? When there's something weird popping on your screen, oh, who you gonna watch? I'm afraid to get sick. I'm afraid to get sick. Hello, this is Jay the SickSaiyan. So there's been a lot of media buzz on my Facebook lately about the upcoming 2016 reboot of the classic Columbia film franchise, Ghostbusters. I'm an 80s and 90s kid, no joke. And as such, I, like most kids at my age, grew up with the Ghostbusters franchise, among other big-time franchises of the day. One of them coincidentally being referenced in the second film. And so during the last 30 years, I only knew the world of the Ghostbusters as most people my age knew it. And that was the world of Pete, Egon, Winston, and Ray. Bombing around in a souped-up 59mm Cadillac that we all know as the Ectomobile. Catching ghosts and catching hell from Walter Peck. And it's true, that man has no dick. I'm not going to go into it that much because I'm sure most people know the story of Ghostbusters. Unless, of course, you're either Amish, in which case you would not be watching this video, technology bad, or you've been living under a rock for all of your life, or a weird old hermit that hasn't been part of society for the last 40 years. On to my thoughts about this reboot. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not entirely sold on it. I like the car, in keeping with the tradition of fixing up an old beater like the first movie, although it still looks pretty odd with the red hardtop and the absence of the fins that the 59 model had. Still, it looks good enough to be a ghost-busting vehicle. I don't have many complaints. I'll get to more about the car later on in this video. To be honest, I really didn't want this movie to be made at first. I wanted a third movie, sure, but I didn't want it to turn out like this at first. What with the passing of Harold Ramis, which totally squashed my hopes for an actual third film with the original four in it. But maybe they would have worked around that and tried to give closure to his character's life and pass the torch on to a new team member like maybe Lewis or the new kid, the rookie, like in the video game. But more than that, I just wanted to have a third movie like 10 years ago. Alas, it didn't happen. So you can imagine my initial rage when I heard that Columbia wanted to do a reboot with an all-female cast. See, usually when something like this is pulled, it's an obvious attempt to pander to PC, social justice warrior feminism, which I despise. And as such, some kind of gimmick to pander to something like that. And an unnecessary attempt at that. And I hate that as well, because stuff that's made to pander to something, they don't really work very well. If I want somebody to make a movie, I want them to make one because they want to make one, not because they're pressured into making one, and not just because they want to pander to something. Use what works. Anyway, enough about that. So, and usually these movies, the ones I heard about and had the misfortune of seeing at least, bombed so fucking bad at the box office that you would think Pearl Harbor a mere fireworks show. And rightfully so, because so many of these movies tend to unapologetically and shamelessly suck, leading to an honorary spot on Rotten Tomatoes. So yeah, I was pretty upset about the news about what direction this film was going to take. And I was like, say it ain't so. And you got to take into account that this reaction is because we're hot off the heels of Michael Bay and James Wan completely shitting all over Transformers, Battleship, TMNT, and Dragon Ball. That last one being James Wan. I no longer say in seriousness that they're ruining my childhood, despite feeling that way sometimes, because they really aren't. It's not like they're making the classics non-existent, but I do feel sometimes that nonetheless, Hollywood directors happen to like taking successful childhood franchises and taking a big shit all over them by fixing what isn't broken and not fixing what is. So I was like, say it ain't so. Well, it's so, whether I like it or not. Then I saw who they were casting and I thought, yep, they just nailed the coffin on their film shut with this one. And don't get me wrong, contrary to what a lot of people are saying on the internet right now, I happen to like Melissa McCarthy. I think she's actually funny. Have you motherfuckers ever seen The Heat? Tammy? That shit's fucking hilarious, man. At least in my opinion. Unfortunately, that's not the general consensus. The other three I don't know about because I haven't watched Saturday Night Live for a long time. And I never saw Bridesmaids. Which, by the way, people are accusing this film of being a sequel to Bridesmaids. You know, especially when they reunited Paul Feig, or Fig, however you pronounce his name, of all people, with McCarthy and Kristen Wiig from the same movie. And Paul Feig, or Feig, whatever his name is, and he directed that film. So there's a lot of Bridesmaids jokes about this movie flying around, like Bridesmaids 2, Ghostbusters. And I don't remember seeing Kate McKinnon or Leslie Jones in any other films. So, or any of the films they were in. So I can't say how well I'm going to receive this film. And at that point I was questioning if this was going to be a good idea. Especially after hearing the news that they cast Chris Hemsworth, of all people, Thor, for those that don't know. Of course, I don't know a soul that doesn't. But they cast Chris Hemsworth, of all people, as the male secretary. And after that, I thought, that's just it. They're pandering to social justice warrior feminists with a general reversal gimmick, and I figured, okay, that's just gonna suck. Because, like I said before, most gimmicks like this are just a quick attempt at a cash grab and have no real thought put into it. So I'm looking at this and going, I feel like this would be a waste of $8. Not that I have to worry about that with my current illness. I'm not entirely convinced that this will be a good movie, but I remind myself again that I would have to see it before I can make that determination. But mind you, either way, I'm going to have to lower my standards for this one, and I'll talk more about that in a second here. I'm going to have to add, though, after seeing some of the footage, the production stills, and the news, and a couple of, couple other things, I have to say that, my attitude's kind of changing a little bit. I'm having more of a positive attitude about this film, but But it's not a complete 180. I still worry about this film as a Ghostbusters fan. So some things I want to talk about here. The suit. I have very few complaints about the suit, although I do find it strange to find the iconic brown jumpsuits with no name patches and orange-white reflector bands all over them. However, I should note that according to one post, this design was chosen to reflect a more firefighter-style look to further the suspension of disbelief, to make them more realistic, and I'm with that. OSHA would require reflector bands on clothing worn in high-risk zones. And if the Ghostbusters actually operated in the real world today, they probably would be required by OSHA to comply with the safety regs. And so I think the costume design people had wanted to take the possibility of OSHA's involvement with the job into account so that the film's uniforms for the crew would show that they comply with OSHA regs in this Ghostbusters universe. So, no real complaints about the outfit design. The Proton Pack. Don't really know what to say about the Proton Pack. I think, like the suit, it's trying to grasp a certain realism. Like if there were actually such a thing as a Proton Pack, they would actually look something like what we will see in this film. Is it as stylish and iconic as the '84 counterpart? No. And of course, it's not meant to be. But is it enough to achieve a suspension of disbelief? I think so, in my honest opinion. And I also believe that may score some points for this film. Especially when you actually look at Paul Feig's schematics and parts labeling for the packs themselves, showing just how much thought he and the prop design team has put into this venture. Vehicles. The car. I've talked about the car a little bit earlier. And I have to say again, it looks decent enough. But I would also like it to have the same familiar siren wail that the original did. And I guess we will see that in future tweets, maybe from set, you know. And I'm glad they kept to a tradition of finding a fixer-upper instead of some cookie-cutter streamlined POS. May not be the classic Ectomobile, which was a 59mm Cadillac, like I said earlier. But the car they made this one from, which is also a Cadillac, but this one's an '89 Superior Sovereign Hearst mod, is a great choice. At least in my honest opinion, it's a great choice. The Ghostbusters team will also be getting motorcycles. That's right, guys, motorcycles. So in addition to everything else, we now have something brand spanking new to add to this, you know, that will set this film apart from the others. While I will say that the cartoons based on the first two films also had other vehicles in addition to the Ecto-1, we never really see those in the first two films. Well, and that's because a syndicated series could expand more on, you know, on things like that and explore that more. But in this film, we actually have the Ecto-1, which is the car, the Cadillac that we all know and love, and we'll now have the Ecto-2 motorcycles. So, and as a fan of motorcycles, I actually have to say I like this. So, we'll see how that goes. The headquarters. I don't know that much about the headquarters yet. What many of us do know is that the new headquarters is situated above a Hong Kong-style Chinese restaurant, which makes me wonder if it's now located in Chinatown, New York, although the filming location for the restaurant is in Boston, as opposed to the old Hook and Ladder number 8 in Midtown, New York. And I'm not entirely sure that having a small loft above a functioning Chinese restaurant, or any restaurant for that matter, is that good of an idea as a plot device. Of course, I don't know if it's functioning in the film or just a front. But if it's fully functional, that would make it pretty damn hard to fit all the paranormal investigation equipment into half the space that the original team had, which was an entire firehouse. Not to mention the car itself. You know, at least with the firehouse you could fit all that and the car in there. Also, unless there's an outside entrance, probably is, how the hell are they going to quickly get their suits on and get ready to go? I'm not saying they couldn't just run to a floor-level locker room, but I'm comparing this to the original setup where the guys had a pole, being it was an old firehouse, hook and ladder number 8, that they could just slide down on and grab their gear and shit out of the lockers, jump in the car and haul ass to the haunting location. I just wonder how they're going to do it this time. I guess I'll have to see more production set photos before I jump to any conclusions. I should add, however, that I'm glad they kept the setting in New York. This film is at least paying some respect to the original franchise, which, thank you. Final thoughts about this? I was initially steamed and pissed off about this. Now I'm somewhat in the middle and moving toward the other end. Because on one hand, I'm worried that it will suck. You know, I'm worried that it will suck and put a black mark on the history of one of my favorite film franchises. On the other hand, if I don't like it, I can just watch the classics. Plus, I want to give it a chance. I want to give it another chance because maybe, just maybe, I'll come to think that this film won't be so bad. As long as Paul Feig doesn't actually try to make it another Bridesmaids, complete with immature period jokes. Also, I want to give this film a shot since Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, and Ernie Hudson, who I respect very much, and even though Ernie had bad vibes about it at first due to the psychomagnetheric slime flow, all three of them are now backing this project 100% of the way. If they can do that, then god damn it, I can too. And if they like the direction that this brainchild of theirs is going in, then I can appreciate it as well. I just hope Feig listens to whatever advice Bill and Dan give, because he'd be a fool not to take that advice. So Paul Feig, if you're watching this video, when Dan or Bill or Ernie suggests something, god damn it, you listen, dude. You listen. Even so, I'm still going to lower my standards a little bit for this film, as I said before. Why is that? Well, it's because while I still know very little about this film yet, and in spite of my increasingly positive attitude about it, all we know of it so far is the cast, the director, the props, the location. We still know nothing, as far as I can tell, about the plot, the script. How much different will it be from the original films? So I will lower my standards in the hopes that I'll be blown away by this film. But also so that if it does disappoint me, it won't disappoint me as much. The other reason is comparing it to the original. Will it ever be that good? Not in the least as far as I can tell. I don't think it'll come close to touching any of the wit, charm, and presence the original films had. And quite frankly, I don't think it's meant to, as I said before. Which is all the more reasons to go into this with a lowered bar standards and to try to avoid comparing this to the originals. Because, like I said, it's most likely not meant to be like the original. This is a whole new, different film. That said, I hope it does justice to the franchise. Also, I should add that as of now, my attitude toward this film is still getting increasingly positive as more developments take place. Especially since most recently, I have learned, and it has been confirmed, that Dan Aykroyd will make an appearance in the film. I hope Bill and Ernie make appearances in the film as well. So far we got Andy Garcia and Dan Aykroyd. So, like I said, we're going to see how this plays out. It may never be like the '84 film I knew as a kid, but I am at least starting to come around to this idea, and I'm now excited for any further developments on this. And hopefully, this movie will prove many a detractor wrong. Because, hey, it's Ghostbusters. Who else you gonna call? He-Man? See what I did there? This Ghostbusters film is scheduled for a July 22nd, 2016 release. So I hope I'm not wrong when I say about this film, I'm ready to believe you. Well, that's all the time I got for tonight. Like this video, share this video, don't forget to subscribe. My name is Jay the SickSaiyan. Scout your power levels later. Bonsai!